Good morning, everybody. It's Eric from the Reptile Room, and today we're going to talk about how to deal with stuck shed on a snake. So you may recognize this fellow from other videos. This is Mr. Midas, and Mr. Midas here is a jaguar caramel carpet python. Now, jaguar is kind of like the spider morph in the sense that they have a bit of a wiggly-waggly head to them, and they are a bit directionally challenged. So sometimes with Mr. Midas here, he starts to shed, just like this, and he gets it going, and he just can't do it all the way by himself. Sometimes it's not an issue. This time he seems to be struggling a little bit, so we're going to help him out with that. And so the first thing you're going to need is a Rubbermaid tote. It doesn't have to be Rubbermaid, but it just has to be big enough to accommodate the snake. So all we've got here is some lukewarm water. This doesn't hurt to put my hand in. It's somewhere between 85 and 92-ish degrees Fahrenheit. So if the water's too cold, it's going to shock the snake. If the water's too hot, it's going to shock the snake. You want it to be sort of their average body temp. Now, they are cold-blooded animals, but they move around their environment to sort of maintain a a range of temperature within their body. Yeah, he's not really making progress with this. It's shredding off a little bit. This is generally a humidity issue. So having correct humidity will help with this, but it's also a jaguar carpet python issue sometimes. But this is what happens when you have a seasonal change and temperatures outside drop and your furnace starts coming on more. Your humidity gets a little bonkers. Let's get him in this little bath, which he's going to want to leave at first. Mr. Midas hates bath time. You're okay, buddy. But we're going to get him in there, and he's just going to soak. He's going to soak for 15-20 minutes because this shed is quite dried out and stuck to him. That soaking is going to really help loosen it up. Okie dokie, it's been about 20 minutes or so. Let's check on our little friend. So there he is. He's settled in nicely. He's had a good soak. And now what we're going to just do is go in there. Hey, buddy, how's it going? And we're just going to gently encourage that shed along. If it's not ready to come off, we don't want to force it off, because that can cause scarring, and scarring is no bueno. And we want to make sure things are bueno. But this is coming off relatively easily, just a little bit shreddy. Now usually this is easier than it looks. This is just what doing it with one hand is like. A little on the tricky side, but you can see how I'm just gently holding the shed, and he's pulling himself through. I'm not pulling the shed off so much as I'm gently holding on to him, and as he's moving, that shed is just working itself off really nicely. And that's exactly what you're after. Just real gently. You do sometimes see criticism over this. They go, you should never peel the shed off of a snake. And if you don't know what you're doing and you don't bathe them first and it's not ready to come off, that is absolutely true. But if it's ready to come off, it doesn't really matter if the thing that they are using as leverage to remove that shed is a rock, a stick, or the hand of a Homo sapien. It really doesn't make a difference. And there we are. We've got most of the shed off. I just figured I'd get you guys along with me for the last bit here, because that's always the most satisfying part. Now, reptiles need to shed their skin like this in order to grow and or heal. This is part of their normal process. We shed too, but we're constantly flaking. Whereas these guys, their scales are made out of something called beta keratin, which is really hard. It makes great armor, but it doesn't grow or stretch all that well. Our hair is made of alpha keratin, and so is our fingernails. Those can grow and they can stretch with us. They're just not quite as durable. And so the snakes need, sometimes, when humidity's a little low, and if they're a little bit goofy, a little bit of help. You just want to make sure that they are ready before you do this. And there we go. A freshly peeled Midas. Now, one common thing I will see keepers do when they come into the store and they say, I have a snake, he's 1.5 million feet long, he could eat Tokyo. Because I measured the shed and he was huge. Now, Midas is probably within the 6-foot range, but if we take this shed skin and we were to stretch it all the way out, it's bunched up at the end. But even then, this piece of shed on the ground here is already significantly longer than the snake. Measuring your sheds is not going to tell you how long they are, because if you look real close, you can see individual scales, and the skin that bridges between those scales is all stretched out. Whereas if we look at Mr. Midas here, who's now working out a poop, his scales overlap, so he's actually not nearly as long as the shed skin might imply. Look at that movement. That's how he's stimulating his bowel. I don't know how YouTube feels about feces, so I'm keeping the camera a little higher up, but he's letting her rip.